Hi friends, my name is Utsab Lointel and I'm a medical student. Today I read something about the heart failure, so just to revise that one I would like to make a video so that it might help you and for me as well to remember in later. I mean, when I have to revise anything later, then I can do that by watching this video. So I haven't read that much and I am very bad at explaining, but I will try something so that you can know something about the heart failure. Anyway, if you have interest you can watch the video. If you are bored, I don't care. So let's start like this. First of all, I would like to define about the heart failure. So heart failure is defined as the inability of the heart as an organ to to pump properly the blood that it receives, which means it cannot provide the enough amount of the cardiac output. So any processes that provokes the reduction in the cardiac output causes the heart failure. There are different ways to categorize the heart failure and classify them, but the most common one on the basis of the site of the local site or the localization of the heart failure, we can classify this into two kind of heart failure. That one is right-sided heart failure and the left-sided heart failure. Right-sided heart failure occurs usually by the following causes, which I am going to explain. First of all, I would like to say something about the volume overload and the pressure overload. Overload means anything that is overloaded, or in general term, when the excessive amount of the blood comes to the heart, if the amount is higher than the normal, or if the volume is increased, then this is known as volume overload. Whereas if the pressure increases above the normal, then we can say this is the pressure overload. So any kind of the causes which will increase the pressure overload and the volume overload might provoke the cardiac failure. First, if we like to talk about the pressure overload, then in the right-sided failure of the heart, the pressure is increased when there is the pulmonary valve stenosis and the tricuspid valve stenosis. So when these two valves get stenosed because of the arteriosclerosis or any kind of the processes, the infection or whatever the things that happens as a pathological mechanism in the valve, and that causes the stenosis, will increase the pressure overload in the heart, and then the pressure will increase, and this will provoke the heart cardiac failure. Whereas there are other mechanisms of the pressure overload also, like on the right side it pumps the heart to the lungs, but if the lungs already is hypertensed, or if there is a pulmonary hypertension, then it cannot pump because of the resistance in the pulmonary artery. So this might also cause the pressure overload, and later it will form the right-sided heart failure. The second one is due to the volume overload, which means that the normal amount of the blood is increased in this case. So so if the pre-overload increases and comes to the heart, then it will increase the capacity of the heart to function above the normal, and then it might cause the cardiac problems. Whereas talking about the valve, the pulmonary valve stenosis and the tricuspid valve insufficiency, it is not a stenosis. Stenosis causes the pressure overload, whereas the insufficiency or the regurgitation due to the incompetence of these valves might cause the volume overload, because the normal amount of the blood which is to be pumped outside the heart cannot be pumped properly because of the incompetency of these valves. So this blood will reflux back or regurgitate. So this will cause the increase in the preload. So it will increases the volume overload, which is also known as preload, increasement in the preload. So these are the things that might cause heart failure in the right side. As well as there is one more cause, which is intrinsic factors. Intrinsic factors means any factor that causes changes in the heart structure, any cardiomyopathies or any kind of the inflammatory process like pericarditis, or any kind of the ischemic heart diseases might cause the dysfunction of the heart muscle, and it might cause the right-sided heart failure. We can say these things on the right-sided heart failure. So if we talk about the symptoms of the right-sided heart failure, then the symptoms that we can see can be different things. Like we can classify these symptoms in the two categories, like forwarded symptoms and the backward symptoms. So we say these forward symptoms, backward symptoms by taking the heart as a basis. I mean, any symptoms which is forward the heart means in the different organs, systemic organs, or the peripheral vessels, any changes that happens, and that may cause some of the symptoms in the body are the forward symptoms. And any symptoms which is backward means the blood comes from in the heart from the superior and inferior vena cava. So any organs which connecting these two veins, and any symptoms related with that is a backward symptom. So in the backward symptom, in the backward symptom, what we can say is when the blood will regurgitate, or when there is an incompetency of the heart muscles, heart valves, then there is a reflux of the blood into the heart, or there is a regurgitation. Because of this regurgitation, there is an increase in the volume. So this is a volume overload, which is also known as increasement in the preload. Because of this increasement, there will be the increasement in the in the volume, or the resistance or the pressure in the peripheral, not the peripheral, but the central veins like inferior vena cava and superior vena cava. So the organs from where the blood should be pumped into the blood must be drained into the heart, cannot be drained properly. So this will cause the systemic congestion. Because of these systemic congestions, there will be the systemic edema. So this systemic edema can be seen as a hepatosplenomegaly, ascites, pitting edema. We can see this one there. We can see this thing there on the right side of the heart failure. So we can see the distended jugular vein and the pulsation of the jugular vein because of the congestion in the superior vena cava, pooling of this blood. We can see there. So let's talk about the left heart side of the heart failure. As a rule, or as a to make the easy and to get comfortable in reading, this can also be classified into the increasement in the preload, increasement in the afterload, and the intrinsic factor. Like I explained before, the preload or the volume overload is due to the regurgitation of the tricuspid and the aortic valve, whereas the I just forgot. Okay, whereas the afterload or the pressure overload is caused due to the stenosis of the tricuspid bulb, bicuspid bulb, and the aortic valve. And if there is already increasement in the peripheral resistance in the peripheral blood vessel, which means the patient already has, if the systemic hypertension, then there must be some pressure in order to resist, or in order to press the blood, compensating this systemic hypertensive pressure. There might be the increasement in the pressure overload or the afterload, which might cause the left-sided heart failure. These are things that we have to say on that one. And then if other things that we'll like to explain is about the symptom of the left-sided failure. Is a rule. There are two types of the symptoms: backward symptom and the forward symptom. The forward symptom is the decreasement of the perfusion in the organs due to the resuscitation and the stenosis of the valves. So what happens is, when there is a lack of perfusion in the different organs, there are different symptoms which is shown by the lack of perfusion in the different organs. Like if there is a lack of perfusion in the brain, then the brain will lack the oxygen and it will be deprived of the blood. So general symptoms like the mental confusion, delirium, mental distortion can be seen. Dizziness can be felt as a first early symptoms. If it takes place in the kidney, then the kidney, if cannot get the enough amount of perfusion, renin-angiotensin aldosterone system activates, and it will cause the hypertension in the patient. If it is not well perfused in the gastrointestinal tract, the absorption of the food material or the nutrition is not does not take place properly. So there is the malabsorption. Because of this malabsorption, the patient will be weak. There will be the malnutrition. Another one is if the perfusion in the muscle is not proper or enough, so there will be the muscle weakness, malaise. Then muscle will start dystrophying. There will be dystrophy of these muscles. So there are the basic symptoms that we can see because of the lack of the perfusion. In the last stages, or in the severe cases, if their perfusion is too low, the brain might not get proper amount of the blood, and it might cause the cardiogenic shock. These are the general things that we can see. In the forward symptom of the left heart failure. If we talk about the right heart failure, if we talk about the backward symptoms of the left heart failure, then there are the symptoms like the blood which comes from the lungs cannot be drained properly, or there is the pooling of the blood in the lungs because of the increase in the volume of the preload. So there is the congestion in the lung. When there is a congestion in the lung, different kind of changes takes place in the lungs. First, there is the congestion in the lungs. When there is a congestion, there is a pulmonary edema takes place over there. When there is a pulmonary edema, there is a pulmonary hypertension. Because of the pulmonary hypertension, the blood vessels might rupture. So there is a pulmonary hemorrhage. Because of the pulmonary hemorrhage, there is a brown induration of the lungs. When there is brown induration of the lungs and the pulmonary hemorrhages, there has induration changes in the lungs can be seen. Is a hemosiderin laden cells can be seen as the macrophages engulf those hemosiderin. So all these factors provokes the pulmonary hemorrhages, pulmonary hypertension, pulmonary edema. This will makes the person some respiratory changes, and then the person will start appearing or experiencing the respiratory changes like cough, dyspnea, wheezes, or any kind of the respiratory insufficiencies.